Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskar. Jayanti te sukrutino rasa siddhaha kavishwaraha nasti tesham yashah kaye jaramaranajam bhayam. Those are the victorious who know about rasa, bhava, and the whole world of art and heart. They are not bothered by any tangles whatsoever they be, whether it is the ultimate fear of death or being old, nothing bothers when they are rasa siddhaha. So says Bharatamuni in Natya Shastra. And we have a very, very seasoned rasa siddha among us. Definitely, no word of mine is an exaggeration. If I have to speak about Professor S. Jayachandran sir regarding he being a Rasa Siddha, truly a Rasa Siddha and a very down to earth person, Rasagrahi is indeed honored by his esteemed presence here. Sri Sai Raman Nritya Kendra Tumakuru deems it the highest pleasure and honor to have Professor Jayachandran sir on board today in discussion, in conversation with our very versatile captain, Vidwan Sagar Tumakuru. A heartfelt and respectful welcome to you, Jayachandran sir. It is indeed a great matter of pleasure and an honor for us to be hosting you and to listen to your Amritarvani. To listen, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, anything that comes out of Jayachandran sir's mouth is but Amritavani. So we shall all await that magic in few moments from now.
Thank you so much.
Namaste, sir. It's indeed an honor to be, conversing with you for an hour on this Sankatha series. Thank you so much for accepting our kind invitation. And I request Rupashri ma'am to go ahead with introducing you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I take honor in welcoming all our respected audiences who have taken their time, patience, and energy off to watch and bless us each time. A respectful welcome to all our audience members who have been watching us live on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and all other social handles where you can really guide us and inspire us. Thank you so much for joining in. And without further delay, I now have the highest honor of, I dare not say I introduced Jayachandran sir, I speak respectfully about his consummate Pragata Sadhana. This is my honor indeed. Sri Jayachandran sir is a practitioner of dance who works on formal nature of art. He is a lecturer at Center for Exact Humanities, IIT, Hyderabad. With an electronics engineering background, Jayachandran sir started his career as a software engineer with Wipro. He joined Kalakshetra Foundation, the world-renowned Kalakshetra, as a part of research and documentation department, later served as assistant professor at Kalakshetra. Jayachandran sir started Bharatanatyam training under Srimati Meera Narayanan and Sri Gopinathan. Later, his dancing skills were refined by the world-renowned danseuse Srimati Leela Sampson, the iconic Professor C.V. Chandrasekhar sir, and the illustrious Guru Srimati Jaya Chandrasekhar, and the world-renowned Abhinaya Queen Srimati Bragha Basil. Jayachandran sir did diploma in Shaiva Siddhanta, BA History, MA History, MA Philosophy, and MA Bharatanatyam. To mention, his story is a high story. His sadhana has now become a history. He has researched significantly on the temples of Tiruvarur and Chidambaram and has presented papers on the same. His paper, Tiruvaruru Sthalam, as interpreted in Srimati Rukmini Devi's choreography, has won him the Best Lecture Demonstration Award from the Music Academy. His paper on architecture and choreography, a comparative analysis, has been featured in the website www.shabda.co.in. Sir was featured in the Silent Burn Project AKC 20, a video in celebration of 20 years of Akram Khan Dance Company. As a performer, Jayachandran sir has done many solo shows and he has conducted workshops, trainings, lectures, seminars across the globe. He continues to research, write papers, teach, and lecture on subjects of not only his interest but our interest too. Without any further delay, I now take you all to this enormity called Jayachandran Sir, who is a repository of knowledge, yet so grounded and humble. There is a lot more for us to learn, sir. Vidya dadati vinayam, tayadyati patratam, patratva dhanamapnoti, dhanat dharmam, tatas sukham. I think the first and the last one only will go with Jayachandran sir, Vidya and the Paramasukham. So I now keep the floor open to our very bright two gentlemen for inspiring thoughts and conversation. Open to you, Jayachandran sir and Sagar sir. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rupashri ma'am. Thank you for taking time off your busiest schedule today. I could understand that. So I'm very thankful for you to be for being part of this Sankatha for so many episodes. I think today is the 28th episode we are going, and I think it's been really good feedback from all over the world, and so we are continuing it. That's what has given both of us, Jayachandran sir, some push to
Correct.
actually go ahead, and the consent from personalities like you. Whenever we approach you all, nobody has told no to me till now. So maybe a change in our date, that's it. But everybody have agreed wholeheartedly to come and share their views and journey to inspire everybody. So thank you, Rupashri ma'am. Thank you so much for
My
doing
honor,
that.
sir. Thank you. Namaste.
So, without any delay, we'll go into your little bit of Purvashrama of Sri Jayachandran ji today. So we all know that you come from a technical background, and in terms of academic education in the beginning. So later you had an inclination, or before you had an inclination towards the dance and field of art, and rather I would say Indian cultural studies. I would rather put it across as. So what did influence you in your initial ages to even take technical studies and this hand in hand, and how did you even balance both of it?
Ah, thank you, Sagar, for having me here. And my namaskarams to everyone who are listening to this online. My namaskarams to Rupa Madam, who has been so graciously has given her initial remarks about me. Even my answer to answer your question, I was actually not anywhere planning to be a dancer. I mean, I think the fact was like so interesting that when I was very young, at the age of 3, I mean, I'm dancing. I mean, I'm like a very young kid, very naughty. Uh, I had the reputation of can't even sit in a place kind of a child. So roaming around, and I used to dance a lot. Just by the thing of it, I used to jump around, dance around a lot. I think during my kindergarten uh, annual day, they casted seeing me dancing in the class itself. I'm saying I used to jump around and during the breaks. But my class teacher kind of said that I would dance for the annual day. For me, everything is happy. Like that to make it was such a big event that I was so enjoying that moment that everyone my mother, she was interested in dance. She had an inclination for it, and she would make up another sister of mine. Her name is Geeta. So and my sister Menaka, all of them were giving so much importance to me that I suddenly started jumping on the stage as a child. I had to say this. Seeing this, my principal of the school invited my mother next day and said, "You have to teach him dance." But no one in the family learned dance. There's no history of anyone learning dance in the family. I'm sure most of us share this point. And after that, my mother, I think, she also had an inclination for it, and also the fact that if she goes against the word of the principal, that something can be problematic. So she directly went to the address it was given to her, and she admitted me into the dance class. It was Srimati Meera Narayanan. It is called the class called the institute name is Saraswati Kala Kendra, where I started my young at the age of 3.5. Actually, I had to be very or 4, something like that. Yeah, it was very, very young, or something like that. So I danced, and for me, dancing was so. I was so happy to dance. I was a happy kid to dance, and my studies were going parallelly. Everything was normal. I used to score well in education, so it was not one was not influencing the other in any way. But one thing, I liked the attention I was getting because every kind of a thing they would cast me on stage, and I used to dance, and everyone used to see me as a dancer kid, kind of. And suddenly we changed the schools, and I went to another school called St. Mary's, and there I met my second dance teacher, Sri Gopinathan. He was a faculty member there in the school, and there it was also kind of very not a regular classes with him, because whenever there's some program he used to teach us. Then later I learned under him for a while regularly, but it was during the class, during the school sessions, he used to teach us some pieces and used to perform. It was all hunky-dory. I had a lot of good fun in the school like a normal student. And I should say that once again, I was enjoying a lot of attention as a dancer. I had to say this. So when I did my higher secondary, and my entire focus was to be a doctor. I mean, either want to get into medicine or something. Medicine was my choice. But my cutoff was not that great, but I got a thing. I got qualified to be an engineer. My focus was to do but in the deep of the heart, when I joined engineering, I started missing dance. That was a turning point to me, but I had extremely good fun in my college. I mean, I had to say that's one of the best days in my life, and roamed around so much, with all my friends. I used to call them this entire gang, a set of jokers. We had all fun on earth. But by the end of my fourth year, all the 4 years of my engineering college, I had to say that I actually was winning many competitions, dance competitions, and many choreographic competitions. Suddenly, I took my college team to win somewhere in Mumbai also, some national level choreographic competitions, and we were doing and it was fun. In the universities used to be fun. One pulling the rope of the other, one nagging the other. It was fun, absolute fun. By the end of the fourth year, I got actually placed in Wipro. So Wipro job, but by this 4 years, I missed dance so much, and I thought I'm not an engineer. That much, that something was creeping in my mind, like I may not fit into this particular profession, but perhaps into arts. That would be my calling. Job. Actually, in this particular thing, I had to tell you that one of a big inspiration throughout my young days was my grandmother, in a very erudite personality, a very radiant personality. My mother and father were very supportive of whatever. My sister, very appreciative, very proud also, all of them. So whatever I did, and honestly, coming from a very humble background, and it was just normal. Everything was going as it was, fine. But my friends know, whoever in my college, they know that my mind is towards arts, but not towards engineering, to pick up a career. I was already there in Wipro working in Delhi. But interestingly, I also had to say, when I was young, I was also a scout, a part of the Scouts and Guides movement. I'm a scout. People who made me, one of the major person who taught me so many things when I was very young was Dr. Bhaktavasan, who was the district commissioner for Scouts. And he kind of plotted me, and he taught me so many things about life. I should say, he's one of my earlier teachers in my life. Whatever I'm doing, I would attribute to his learning. And another friend of mine, his name is Dayalan, and his grandfather, he taught me about Tirumandiram, a text called Tirumandiram, a Shaiva text, at the age of, say, 10 or 10 and a half. I mean, so few verses from Tirumandiram. Whenever I used to visit his place, he used to call me and teach me something. And we used to play together. Me and my friend used to play, and he used to teach me whenever I visited. And those were the initial times. I didn't even know what it was much. I had to say this all played a very important role later in my life. Later, I went to Delhi. Job took me to Delhi. Wipro took me to Delhi, and I had to say it's a turning point in my life. Like, that's the place where I met Lilaka. So, so I started learning under her. It was a very strange thing. That's where everything changed for me. If you want to call me a transition, my Purva ashrama to be a dancer and dance transition, it was there, Delhi. Delhi made me a dancer. So that's an answer to your question. I mean, so much to say what happened. Yes.
Yeah, that's so nice. And we also, thank all those personalities you mentioned who were very contributing to, a personality in shaping a personality like what you are today. Because it's very rare to get such motivated people. And also the humble supporters, as you rightly said, your family members who have, believed so much in you that you could explore something of your own interest, because generally there is a quest that you generally do your engineering, start your job, and you finish, your life is over there and you settle down and things like that. But I think giving an option for children to explore what they are and who they are and who can actually contribute to the society in a positive way is something which we all look out for. So directly getting into the point, because 1 hour is very less to talk with Jayachandran sir, as I know. You have been there for 4 years in a technical background in a college, and me also coming, and I teach now also in a technical institute. So, but having a humanities which related to cultural studies, how important is it? Because I could sense that when your humble note, when you said that you missed dance for that 4 years, and there will be so many people who are not dancers but artists from childhood, or they might be inclined towards cultural studies or something like that. But because of this technical pressure of maths, science, and programming, and these and that, and so many electives which are too technical in its sense, we will never have time to even think about and going for classes or dancing, even for those 4 or 5 years of technical education. What change would you look at in this technical education to imbibe certain kind of this kind of cultural aspects? And if you have any good instances, you can share with us.
Okay. One thing is, personally, even I had to say this, when you say a technical field vis-a-vis art, how do they go together, kind of a thing, how one is going to complement each other in a way of training or imparting something. I had to say, certainly at this moment, I had to reflect about Lilaka, because whatever she taught me at the age of 21, I had to say, I was an engineer, I was working in a software company. I was, to be very honest, I was making all my effort to leave the country and go to another place. These were all the typical thoughts. But I had to seriously say that visiting Lilaka and the way she taught me made me think that this is far more deeper. I mean, literally had to say the age of 21 or 22, I restarted. Actually, to say perhaps that is the time I really started, getting into dance. I found there is so much so, which is so technical, vis-a-vis the watertight jacket between technicality or technical study vis-a-vis art studies became suddenly blurred. Everything was, having a very easy conversation one with the other. And in that sense, whatever I consider as technical has become artistic, and whatever I consider artistic has become technical also in both things. And when I, later, going to Professor C.V. Chandrasekhar sir in Chennai, I also came to know he's a botanist.
Yeah.
I mean, he later there were a lot of. I mean, even with Tilaka, even with Chandrasekhar sir, the kind of discussions I used to have. I'm a kind of a student, to be very honest. For me to learn something, I'm not a quick learner. I used to break my head. I used to contemplate on it, break it open, tease it open, and I want to understand it in something different. So I had to be so thankful to Tilaka and to Sir CUC sir, that they were very patiently. They used to tell me many things, and they had a knack of kind of feeding my thought. They used to ignite me to think. So these excitements, which excited me technically also, and I used to go back to my office and I used to share it with my colleagues. To be very honest, by my software colleagues, I'm saying my quote unquote technical people, everyone were excited about the idea. Then only I understood that this is not anything to do with art alone. It's the vishya, the kind of the depth in it would inspire any true learner. That's very interesting. And I used to draw all my friends to kacheris, and they have never even seen Bharatanatyam till then. I used to drag them, and just because they are friends, they are obliged to come. I used to drag them to Krishnagana Sabhas and Naradagan Sabhas and make them watch. And some of them were also very moved, actually very moved, by the kind of performances they saw, because the kind of the kind of things they were being told what is classical dance is perhaps in a completely different shade. It's always about praising the Lord. They had some kind of hangover there. But when they saw a technical brain looking at it, who is completely engaged in, then they found something very interesting. The fact was also that when I, later I served in Kalakshetra for 9 years as an assistant professor there. The fact is, when I came back to IIIT, and when I joined IIIT, there was already an art program there for which I was inducted into as a faculty member. While doing that, I understand that there is no distinction between art and, when you excite that part of the brain, every technical people here, they start thinking about art, so-called art. The moment is you have to pick up a conversation. That's it. In my opinion, that conversation, if it starts, because you are getting exposed to one of the most truest knowledge of humanity, which has been hardwired into someone's sensibility for aeons. That much I'm very sure. Art is not something exterior. Art is not something you train yourself to be. It is just lying within us dormant. If you just excite some part, you need that people to excite you. Then it just flows. It just, has, it could be the most serious technical people, but this is what I find. And if you excite that part, the subject becomes very easy. And I don't see any distinction or any hardness in introducing art studies, quote unquote, so-called art studies, to technical people, because it's one and the same. It's absolutely one and the same. That's my thought.
I think that's a brilliant thought, and I think there needs to be certain kind of new ways of putting across it to the current age of entering engineering college or medical college and getting placed and then settling down. Rather, this kind of a quest towards true knowledge, be it any art form or humanities or cultural studies, I think will enrich what we are and where we are. Probably, I think that's the thing which is also very much important for today. Uh, Going on to your, what we have all seen you as, a presenter, a knowledgeable person. Just now, I think Rupashri ma'am gave all the adjectives which are possibly, greater than whatever I can say in my own simple sense. But we have seen you giving very profound thoughts about the deeper meanings of just dancing, because there are a lot of audience here over dancers who watching this program. Actually, what I find in all your lectures is that just now what you explained is about that deeper thought, which might be an influence with various different cross cultural studies or cross interdisciplinary points which you are looking at. One of them which you have done is to architecture and dance, which is just an example to quote. As a dancer now, I'm a new dancer getting into the field of dance and taking it seriously. How would you suggest him that how he can go more deeper into knowing what he is dancing, because that is very important, the theoretical knowledge, more than theory what it says in Abhinay Darpanam or Natya Shastram. It's about the interpretation of it, and then how we kind of deepen our own understanding of why we are doing it, and things are there that will make us more strong and firm towards what we are presenting to the audience, is what I believe. So what's your thought on dwelling into this? Because as you just explained your interactions with Leelaka or CVC sir, it was more about these kind of explorations. And I think this question is an extension to that, that how did you kind of get into this mode of research and compilation and then dissection and relearning and unlearning part of it?
Let me tell you, it all started with one Kirtanam what Leelaka taught me.
Okay.
To be very honest, at the age of 21, when I was attending her classes in Sri Ram School in Delhi, she introduced, I'm this very serious, that I got introduced to a name of a book called Abhinay Darpanam only by then. It was so exciting to me. As a child, like a child has got a toy in her hand, I started reading this book, and translation of that, it was translation of Manmohan Ghosh, and also I picked up a book of Ananda Kumaraswamy's translation. Thank God, I picked up two great scholars' work. I mean, I didn't work, and when I started reading the preface, and it is not directly Hasta I went. I'm a kind of a person, I read books in different ways. I read it upside down, I read it front and back. I was reading the preface and the initial work. I was so excited about this work. But the way it was taught to me even by Leelaka, and I suddenly thought it is something far more deeper. Then that's one part. Another part is she taught me one Kirtanam, Ananda Nadamedum Padan, Ragam Kedara Gowda, composition of Papa Narasimha. She used to give us some kind of questions to work and come back to the next class. And one of the questions was, what is Shiva? Like, it was not who is Shiva, what is Shiva? So it is just within a class, you have to write or you kind of understand something. Then Akka used to discuss some points. But that question actually sparked me, to be very honest. But even before that, I had to say honestly, my fourth year of my engineering, we were doing some group works. One of my civil department professors wanted us to do a work on temples for their one upcoming seminar. It was a seminar. It was like a conference. By then, he gave us some points to work on what a temple was, something like that. And initially, he gave me a book to work. Based on that, I did one small work within the college. But it had an impact on me, but not so deep. But I had to say, while working with this, while coming to Leelaka, working on compositions, she prescribed me a book, The Presence of Shiva by Stella Kramrisch. That's one of the first book I ever bought on Shiva. And I never knew it's a kind of a tome. It's not even a book, it's a tome. And another book by Nataraja in art and literature by none other than Professor C. Shivaramamurthy. I was living in Delhi, so I used to walk to the National Museum. I got the copy and I was reading. Then only I understood that I know nothing of any of these things. And there's so much to learn, so much to learn. It opened up into multiple channels of reading, multiple channels of analysis. It was going on when I came learning under Professor C.V. Chandrasekhar sir. The same thing continued. Like, he used to ask me some questions. We used to interact, and more than that, it is Jayamami. Srimati Jayachandran. Sir is one side, and Jayamami is another side. She used to ask me some questions, and one will lead to the other. I mean, the patience I received from my teachers. That much I had to say. I am with all joint hands. They used to discuss a lot, question, and make me inquire more about it. To all, to ice the cake, I had to say, Leelaka became the director of Kalakshetra in 2005. I by then I was finishing 5 years, 5.5 years in Wipro. So when Leelaka became the director, I requested her, can I join Kalakshetra in some capacity? Leelaka first said no, and later, there was a lot of discussion with her, and I said, can I join in some other capacity which I can help Kalakshetra in one sense? So I was asked to take care of little IT work in Kalakshetra, being an IT engineer, and also look after the research and documentation center. They had some archival material of Kalakshetra. Yeah, I'm supposed to take care of it. Parallelly, I've started already reading about temples, Shiva. These were going on different gods, Krishna, Rama. I started many lectures. I had to say that being in Kalakshetra only opened many, imagine that as a youngster, I was 25, 26, something like that, when I was taken to the center where they had a bureau, a solid bureau, right? When they opened, Leelaka opened it and they said, these are the papers, they are very important papers and you're supposed to document it. I never knew I was standing in front of the archives of time. What I saw is a khazana of writings from none other than the hands of Srimati Rukmini Devi, the eminence of Tiger Varadacharya, the Budru, and greats. Their handwritten notated dance compositions, Periya Sharda teachers' notations, Kamalarani teachers' notations. Sitaram Sharma sir's some kind of notes, and Rukmini Devi's articles, Shankara Menon's articles. I never knew who they were by then. Imagine someone offers you a job and you're paid for reading, going through these things, and what more one can ask for? I had to say that. I had to go through those papers, arrange them, create a library, document it. Life changed, completely changed, because you're immersed in downpour of knowledge. Downpour. It was just gushing from everywhere. Because and history of the annals of history of Indian art history is right in front of me. How art evolved from 1930s to 80s till her death. Life of Rukmini Devi is more or less, you can trace it as evolution of art in India itself. There are so many magazines, write-ups, her letters, journals. Slowly, I understood. These were I need not qualify them, but the world knows. They are the think tanks of the India by then, and even now. They are great in one way. And the way they created it is for every youngster. I'm also one among them. They want to inspire young minds in the country, young minds in the world. I felt like I'm one among a student, which they kind of established an institution. Though I'm getting paid as a member, but I still considered myself as a student. I used to read very judiciously and practice many things from them, and things changed very differently. To say that their way of opening certain how did they open? How did they understand it? All of this were notated in some or the other papers. Because there were so many scholars in Kalakshetra, Sanskrit scholars, Tamil scholars. The people who of the art field was part of Kalakshetra. Papanarayan Shivan being a faculty member, the Tiger Varadacharya a faculty member, Mysuru Vasudevachar being a faculty member, Veena Sambasiva Iyer being a faculty member. Buduru Krishnamurti Shastrigal. Dance side, if you take starting from, Katapunakkal Muthukumara Pillai, he has served in Kalakshetra, Dandada Pandit Pillai has served in Kalakshetra, Karaikal Saradambal, Mylapur Gauri Amma, and greats, Periya Sharda teacher, Chinna Sharda teacher, and all the great stellar cast of Kalakshetras thing. I'm saying, right from Dhananjayan sir to Shantaka, Ambi teacher, Tangamani teacher, Pushpa teacher, many of them whose I had a taste of everyone. Kittu sir, Janardhan sir, Balagopal sir, Krishnavani teacher, many, Vijay teacher, everyone, and their kind of works. They've written it down, and it makes, as a youngster, what you do, the age of 26, you are just inspired so much, and your job is to get inspired and write about it because you're part of the research and documentation. So I kind of created. I should say I was a lucky youngster because I got first-hand material of their writings and their documentation, and I started investing my time in it. I started learning a lot of books in Kalakshetra. I mean, the library is so beautiful, one of the best libraries for arts. Uh, and what more you want? I was practicing a lot. So these inputs gave me a kind of a thing that how do you go about something? How did they do it? And how traditionally? And I had to also say that because I was interested in temples, I started working on temples. I used to take my students to temple trips to Mamallapuram, to Kanchipuram, to Chidambaram, to Tanjavur, Kumbakonam, Tiruvarur. These were the places I used to take. I used to take my students on the temple trips. On frequent visits, I also started visiting the old traditional artists, especially Pandanallur Swaminatha Pillai from Pandanallur, who's the grandson of Pandanallur Meenakshi Sundaram Pillai. I happened to meet him, and I learned something under him also for a while. I also met a couple of, two sisters. They are called as Thiruvaraputtur sisters. Interestingly, they are the daughters of the first two dancers. I'm saying the two dancers who first Rukmini Devi saw and she got inspired to learn dance. They were daughters of one of the sisters there. And they have these two sisters, they are also students of Pandanallur Meenakshi Sundaram Pillai. And I happened to meet them. I also learned something from them. I also met P. R. Tilakam, the last Kondi of Tiruvarur temple. And I learned, a considerable amount of experience of her doing Tyagesar Kuravanji and not performing, but singing, and her set of songs. To me, all these things gave me a perspective from Kalakshetra input side oriented inputs, and also from these traditional artists. And I also had to say, my visits to Tiruvarur temple and Chidambaram temple, especially in Tiruvarur, greats like Sri Selva Ganapati sir, who is the traditional Nadaswaram player of the hereditary Nadaswaram player of Tiruvarur temple. Visiting few other great saintly people of Tiruvarur, I would say they are no more. They have left their mortal coils. Visiting them, learning from them what the temples were, what the traditions were, what the dance, what the music, what the rituals, what is that temple is all about. That actually added so much of methods of investigation, methods of dissection. I mean, this is an answer. I mean, these are the people. These are
That's
the
a
people
beautiful and it's a very thrilling story, which I'm also so excited to listen to it. And yeah, I envy that part of luck you had to being absorbed at Kalakshetra. But anyways, being in Kalakshetra itself is like a blessing for anybody and everybody in various different ways. So it's like a kalpavriksham is what everybody have seen and experienced it as, because you take up whatever you want to do in dance, it's already available there, so you can get inspired from the resources over there. So now my thing is like, as we see in the dance field, as you rightly mentioned too, in any Indian studies, if you take up, there are I think two divisions to it. One is something which is quoted in a text, which is a textual thing, and the second one which has come through the practice, the parampara. So the text versus parampara, there are certain kind of delineations, similarities, and dissimilarities. Am
Sagar,
I?
uh, Sagar, may I interrupt you for a minute, please, for a
Yes,
second?
yes,
I'm sorry.
yes,
No,
yes.
your voice is completely breaking for me. Sorry, I'm unable to follow your question.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
I had a kind of a break.
Yeah. Am I okay now?
No,
Am I okay?
it's breaking
No.
once again.
Okay.
Sorry, I
We'll,
didn't get you.
no. We'll wait for 2 minutes. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Is this okay now? No.
You can. I can also. Okay. Let's try. Let's try again, please.
Yeah. So my question is basically how important is to document the oral traditions in any art form in India, because the textual forms are little different and the oral traditions have a different kind of a flair and the way it has been practiced as parampara. How do we do it, and if you can share some views on that?
Yeah. See, documenting oral traditions. To me, what is the tradition? The documentation is one thing. I completely agree with the point of documenting a tradition. It's very important. It's very significant. But more important is, in my opinion, documenting the spirit of the tradition. I mean, how do you document it? Not by videographing. Videographing, we have evidences of it. It becomes more like a finished product, documenting a finished product. But my concern, this is where I started. I honestly had to say, initially, my works of research and work, I started, my work was, I was also, asked to document certain finished work, like a music composition, a dance composition, and create metadata out of it. Who's the composer? Who's the dance, choreographer, composer? And which year it was done? Who are the other musicians? Who are the artists in the video? These were the things which was, yes, it's a kind of a metadata collection. I had to say, during all this search, I got introduced to two interesting teachers in my life. They are Sri Umapati Acharya and Sri Veerinathan Acharya. They are traditional Vishwakarma people from Kumbakonam, whose family is extremely reputed. They have high reputation in the families of Sthapatis in India. And these families, their fathers and grandfathers were the people who made Ratha for great, great temples, for Madurai Meenakshi Temple, to Sarangapani Temple in Kumbakonam, to Ramanatha Swami Temple in Rameswaram. Many, many temple works that family has done. Why I say, the moment you speak about oral tradition to these people, because I consulted them and I started talking to them only to document their knowledge. That was one of the work I took up on me. But slowly, slowly interacting with them, I come to know it is okay to document the finished product of a work of an art or a temple. It's fine. But it's more important that we align ourselves into the thought. To me, that led to so much of search. This documentation of an oral tradition, once again, I say it is not necessarily documenting a finished work. If you know the spirit of it, we can create our works now. I mean, no older traditionalists would be very happy if we just keep imitating their work. They will also be happy if we extend the work furthermore, in keeping the spirit alive. The spirit here, I mean, is the idea part. For idea to getting documented, one has to delve deep into the compositions or any work, it would be the work of temple, the work of painting, the work of sculpture, the work of architecture. If we know the fundamentals, then we can readapt it to the times. For that, we need documentation of the ideas than the practice. Practice is there. Practice is through the body. The praxis, as they call it, informed practice. Yes, it is important. That has to be documented, but more importantly, the idea has also to be documented. To me, documentation of idea is like preserving seeds, rather than documentation of a finished composition is like preserving a fruit. Preserving a fruit would need freezers. I mean, how do you preserve a fruit? Anyway, it's going to decay. It'll take its own time. It'll fade off anyway. But seeds is not like that. Seed can survive in a very dry condition. And understandably, you want, when the climate is right and the soil is moist and fertile, it's right, apt. Then you sow the seed, it gives out to a tree. In my opinion, documenting ideas in its pristine form and preserving the seeds, this is far more important. Yes, it is also important at times to preserve the fruit, preserve the branch, preserve the trunk. The roots are all to be preserved. The seeds also to be preserved. So this is my thought. So oral history, in my opinion, they never documented their work. We can learn it. Importantly, their way of learning something is learning the idea. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think coming back to a different perspective of yours and the work of yours, looking at, you have done a great job of looking at, temple rituals and the temple existence and the relationship between rituals which happened in the temples, peculiarly to dance rituals and dance as a ritual in the temple. So, what were your interesting, explorations in this context?
See, one thing I had to also say that after all my work here, I joined IIIT Hyderabad, and in that capacity, I came under Professor Navjoti Singh and another professor, Professor Nandkishore Acharya. My professor was Navjoti Singh, who was running the Center for Exact Humanities at IIIT Hyderabad. He made me get into the roots of these rituals of dance, of music. And he made us understand that there is a completely different angle in these things are being done, being understood. In that way, to me, rituals are a kind to explain the rituals, it would take a kind of a technical session. I know we know that, but to put it in a shorter shell, a kind of a nutshell, this is a kind, one has no capacity to see a ritual, but can only participate in a ritual. And he in different ways of looking at it. Even I had to visit the local dance ritualists. I'm saying even in Telangana area, some of them, when we investigate their thought, it is so profound that we understand that none of them are seeing dancing body as such right in front of their eye. They are participating in a ritualistic environment. Why I say this, that ritual dance is, it's not the dance, it's not even nothing to do with dance per se. We are trying to construct a body, we are trying to construct a sharira in which some other power, some other bodies can descend, some other forces can descend. We are creating a plot in which something else can happen there. I mean, we are not, see, dance there is a very transparent entity. Actually, one has to understand that. Dancer, there, the body is transparent. Something is flowing through that, which the dancer themselves are not responsible for. The only thing the dancer could do is align the body with some parameters around. So if that alignment is perfect, something flows through the body. That much is sure. And it is like lending. It's when you're doing a ritual, what are we doing is we are lending our hands, lending our legs, and lending our voices to some beings which are waiting to take this on that particular moment, opportune moment, on that particular muhurat, on that muhurata, some descending forces want to take these bodies. In ritual dances, this is what happens. That during and the accompaniment of rhythmic instruments, the body becomes transparent. The body is not there. It's only lending the hand and lending the leg to that particular being to descend. It's a little complex idea. It's I know it is like it can be a little abstract also to think about it, but it's very interesting to understand with conversation with ritual specialists that you know that there is a kind of a reading that we are offering dance to the deity per se. Perhaps it's very also interesting to note that the devata, the particular force, has many shariras. I mean, one is the Shila Sharira as you see in front of us. But it's also interesting to note that the same Devata can take a Raga Sharira. They can take a Tala Sharira. They can take Mantra Sharira. They can take Nati Sharira. This dance is not offered to them. The dance itself becomes the body, descending body, for the higher forces to descend. That music is not offered to them. The mantras and the chant is not offered. The chant itself is the body of the force which is trying to descend, which is trying to yearning to take a rupa. The nama, rupa, guna, and karma, they are trying to manifest there. They are different kind of installation. It's a different kind of installation, and within the body, there are multiple bodies, and within that there are multiple bodies. This is a ritual is a very interesting idea. A ritual dance, if we open it up, suddenly we see the time is. We are trying to play a whole lot of which has happened in multi-thousand years of existence. We are trying to play that within 1 minute or 1 second or something like that. They would say we all know that an entire Ramacharita can be sung in 3 minutes, possible, into a shloka. That the entire so many years of existence Ekashloki Ramayana is there. The entire memory instances of Valmiki's entire Valmiki, not necessarily Valmiki, any Ramayana can be brought into that. And even furthermore, you truncate it. You want to make it Rama, who's the Purushottama, who's the Uttama Purusha of the given Mahayuga. Because Rama, if it argument's sake, Rama is a collection of Maryadas, the Maryadas of the society. And if that has to be truncated furthermore and furthermore and furthermore, ritualistically, you hold a hand like this. I mean, right hand and left hand. That's it. That when you hold it and leave it, that being comes and stays and leaves you within split second. And you're not responsible. You are only an outsider to it. You are a sakshi to it. Though you're a dancer, many times you're a sakshi because you
mean to say that dance kind of creates an imagery of something which evokes these kind of energies in the person who is viewing it or part of it?
Yes. See, the factor is this is only one aspect of dance I'm speaking. One aspect. Yeah. Ritualistic aspect is only one aspect. That is what I'm trying to explain. But there are many other aspects to this. I mean, it is interesting that, see, ritual is one important, yes, it's important, but how much of dance is contributing to it? It is not just dance alone. But the narrative part of it is far more, it's engaging for a dancer to work with. But even the narrative part, if at all we say the natya part, the nataka part, the whatever, the dance part, what we are doing, and the ritualistic part, one thing is very sure. The dancer here is spending all the energy with all the effort every of our dances we invest. Perhaps we are investing it for wiping off the negativity, the fading off of negativity in the place. For some reason, to restore back the auspiciousness, to restore back harmony in a given place. Many of these practices were happening. I mean, age-old artists, we had a practice of inviting artists to perform, even within our own premises in way back, I'm saying. When something goes wrong in the house front or something, people invite the artist to perform a katha or, say something. Katha.
It was happening.
Small events.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sagar, I could not listen to you. Sorry.
No, you can continue.
Hello, Sagar. I'm sorry, I lost the voice.
No, it's okay. You can continue. Sorry for interrupting. Continue, Jayachandran.
No, I could not hear you.
Yeah. Am I not audible now? Hello? But you're clear to me.
Hello, Sagar.
Hello, am I audible now, sir?
No, I can't. No, I lost. there are very limited voice. I'm listening. I couldn't hear you.
Okay. Now?
Okay. Okay. The factor is that I have to say that Sagar may also ask you type it out if it's possible, that we can continue the conversation based on the question. Also, I can read the question from here.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Yes, sorry. Okay. See, the factor is also that this way of looking at dance as a technical, the way we look it as a ritual, then we take it into dance, then I should say that these people, these thinkers, especially Professor Navjyoti in his own research, and Professor Nandkishore Acharya, who taught us about courses on thinking, especially on different methods of like history of ideas. How do we see certain aspects of life, and how do we kind of proceed with it? These were the masters who kind of influenced my thinking, and I had to say there, I'm saying from the entire fraternity of teachers I'm speaking about, it is important to know that they have some targets and choices in their thinking, and they want us to proceed further. As an artist, we are sharing the responsibility of reasoning out what we are doing, and henceforth, a reasoned out future of art is far more a lucrative art, and it gives us a kind of a sense of belonging and a sense of deeper understanding of what we are doing, and a significant understanding. And I would rather, there's a lot more to be done to raise above opinions, and we create values for ourselves. And regarding values, one has to know the roots. To create values, one has to return back to roots. There are a lot more practices in between. I'm saying in between, we have picked up a lot of layers we have picked up. But it is also important, every given time period and era of an art, we pick up and we have to shed these layers off. It's also important to school ourselves. It is also important to de-school ourselves. You know, shred ourselves from thought and find out the idea, crux of the idea. Every time, every given era, are we familiar? Are we familiar with the idea? Are we familiar with ideology? Henceforth, practice and praxis, the informed practice, comes out of these material, this kind of thinking. Some of the fundamental thinking of the idea are available in the text of philosophy. I agree, but much of it is not there, and some of them are within the thoughts of the older practitioners. It is important to document that, and we proceed further, and we make a far more tangible kind of a statement out of it. That's what, to me, will be the future of the work. I mean, then I would take the next question. My next question: dance is a medium of interpreting a space, place, and icons. Of course, dance is a medium to interpret a space, interpret a place, and interpret. This is a question. Of course, inherently, dance has a capacity to interpret it. See, interpreting space and interpreting icon is once again about to get into the abstraction of ideas once again. I'm getting back to the same thing. that interpreting a space in the sense to understand that space is excited by the enclosure it has. I mean, this can get a little more technical when we speak about architecture. I mean, there is an enclosure in which something is getting disclosed. Dance, the enclosure of dance is human body, from which something is getting disclosed. But we also know dance is a work which we are sculpting, or we are kind of, the space is getting sculpted. The displaced space is trying to create the meaning in the minds of the onlooker. I mean, there's a kind of a channelization. When we are sculpting a space here, the space gets converted into something and it gets displaced there in the mind. It excites some thought in the, it is not direct though. It is in technically it is called as apurva, apurva and adrishta. That which you can't see and that which has no causality to it. Apurvam, doesn't have a purvam to it, and adrishta, that which is not viewable. Whatever the Shilpi thought of making that icon, when he is displacing that particular space from there, even from the stone, so where does that space go? That's waiting to be received in the minds of the onlooker. The same thing for dancer. Whatever we are investing here while thinking, it gets transposed into the space which we are sculpting, and the displaced space gets excited in the minds of the onlooker. On a very intellectual, maybe it's quite abstract also, but the factor is the dancing space is created by the virtue of movement, because by moving it's a measure. By moving, we are measuring. I mean, many our adavas are also types of measurement metrics. Our hastas are kind of measurement metrics. The male dancing, in one sense, you look at it, this is a way we interpret it. We're interpreting space and we're interpreting place and icons by the idea of displaced space. And
am I audible now, sir? Am I audible now?
Male dancing tradition in India.
Am I audible now? No.
Sorry, Sagar, I could not listen to you.
Okay.
I think there's some technical problem from my side. I don't know, but I'm unable to. Yeah. I can read it from here. Right. I don't know. I'm unable to listen to you at all. Sorry. No problem. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
So, yeah. The male dancing tradition in India is the next question I find there. I would go by it. That, in my opinion, the male dancing tradition is entirely on the Katha tradition. I mean, mostly the Kathakara tradition. The male dancing tradition is little more rigid in its structuring and very functional in its outcome. They are very focused in their outcome. We also know they are language-dependent traditions. They're not free in adapting other languages into their work. Not so free, if not for Sanskrit. But most of them come from the storytelling tradition. The ritualistic part to a male dancing tradition in India is not so much like a female dancing tradition, where female dancing tradition is associated with rituals very much. But here only very few pockets of male dancing traditions are associated with rituals. Most of them are storytelling traditions. But if we speak about the current men becoming dancers in the classical dance of India, that's a completely different argument. If in that sense we take it, it is a very lucrative career in the sense, in my opinion, I may be a little far, I'm kind of looking forward. I slowly see that male dancing tradition, especially classical dances, especially whatever we say as neoclassical dance of Bharatanatyam, Odissi, Kuchipudi, Kathak, I somehow feel the male dancing tradition might even take a newer tradition now. I mean, a newer form. Because not just the adavas are getting changed, the way it's getting presented, the kind of compositions we choose to present, it's more or less taking a parallel track. It's making a parallel track, and in due course in future, it's only a prediction. Maybe it might be a form. If people want to add many interpretations to it, want to strengthen it in a given way, it might be a form even. So, in my opinion, it has a lot of future, a lot of hope, provided all male artists work towards enhancing the material, enhancing and adding a lot of the originality to it, and kind of some kind of novel ideas to it. It would take another shape altogether. That's my thought.
Am I audible now, sir? At least?
Super. Super.
Okay. Okay, I
Super.
think we are back on track. Thank you so much for answering whichever I put it in the chat box. The idea
Yeah.
of space, place, and icons, which I was talking about, your work was exactly the same thing, but you pinned the right idea of understanding a space in terms of a dancer. But nevertheless, your work on the Tiruvarur temple, your work on the iconography of different sculptures into dance, and how dancers have been working on interpreting that. So, like, through various different compositions, I think you've deconstructed many compositions of Rukmini Devi Arundel herself to understand how different ways of interpreting that. I think I request all the viewers to go through some of your videos, which are very exemplary works of how do we deconstruct and understand the compositions. Sometimes it happens, even it happened to me also. There are certain hastas which come in between, which are not tagged directly to the lyrics. At that point of time, if the guru is not able to explain why those things have been passed on, the general comment we get is it's a traditional composition, it's been taught, but the meaning behind that would be something really great, is what I think we get from your interpretations of space, place, and icons. Because there are different iconography, even the mudras in some of the styles of Bharatanatyam, which were little not now. Okay, now we follow most of the textual representations of all the hand gestures of gods and goddesses. But if you look at a little bit before, there are various different varieties of even showing Narayana in this way and this way. So many varieties had been there before. So, and there might be a lot of influence of those sculptures, as you rightly said, the Sthala Puranams, which influenced the dancer a lot. So I think that was the point which
May
made that
I
missing.
may I interrupt you here for 1 second?
Yes, yes, yes.
I mean, to say sculptures have a direct impact on dance, me as a researcher would not. I'm not so. I have some reservations about that idea, because sculpture is one tradition. See, it also look like this. Think about it like this: that if we are interpreting an idea, say God, say Sri Krishna is an idea in one sense. The same idea is being given to the grammar of dance, and same idea is given to the grammar of the Vishwakarmans. The Vishwakarmans would convert it into, see, they have a capacity in terms of Vishwakarma tradition, I'm saying. If you give an idea, they can even convert that not necessarily into a sculpture. They can also convert it into an architecture. They can convert it into a painting. I mean, architecture money, not necessarily doing sculptures on the architecture. Say an idea of,
The
say,
spirit of the
Kamal Mahal.
architectural building itself.
Yeah. The idea of Nataraja in Chidambaram, the idea of Nataraja is getting converted into Chitsabha. Chitsabha is not anything different. Chitsabha is Nataraja, but it's the idea of Nataraja getting converted into an architecture. If the same idea given to making a bronze, you get a bronze icon. The same idea getting into a painting, you get something else. The same idea can be transformed into a jewelry. We can make a jewelry called Nataraja. We can weave it as a textile. It is there. I'm not even saying out of any wild guess. It is there. If you go to even Puri Jagannath, the cloth which revolves around the closest, that sculpture of, we know the three icons of Balabhadra, Subhadra, and Jagannatha.
Yeah.
The cloth wrapped around them is the cloth. The name of the cloth itself is something to do with Jagannatha. It is not a wraparound of Jagannatha. That itself is Jagannatha. Same in in Tiruvala Swami's temple. That particular silk which is draped around the Tirumeni of Sri Tyagaraja Swami, that itself is Shiva. So it is not that I'm coming back. Why am I saying this? Idea is given to weaver. Idea is given to jewel maker. Ideas. The philosophy of the idea is given to an architect, to a painter, to a dancer. We directly don't imitate their end products. We all talk via the central point called the idea. So in many ways, there is no need to directly imitate the iconographic representations. In many ways, I'm saying. See, in icon, to say Mahavishnu, he holds Shankha Chakrama like this. I mean, there are the Kartarimukha Hasta, you can hold it like this. In dance, we for a variation, you can hold it like that. But for us, primarily this Tripitaka, as we have deciphered one kind of method of holding it. I mean, very clearly, this is one method of holding it. Even any god, Devata Hastas, if you carefully watch, it is not from the iconography directly. But the idea, what we shared from this idea to the sculptor to the dancer, idea is common, idea is same. But we have our own methods of deducing something, they have their own methods of deducing something. And directly to have a link between them, for a variation, it is fine. To make some connections, it is fine. But for us to show a reclining image, we don't recline. We have our own mandalas to show someone is reclining on a serpent couch. We have our own mandala. We don't sit down to show we are sitting it down. We just lift our leg to do something, we are sitting on top of something. We have our own methods to interpret the idea. The iconographers have another set of ideas to getting interpreted from the same idea, I'm saying. In this way, the transit between them is not like imitating one to the other as a finished product, but via the idea, we have to have a conversation. Then there are far more important conversations will open up its channels. There have been discussions like, and it's to extend that idea, all these things are called monumentation of thought. I mean, this is a dance monumentation. This is an architectural monumentation. This is a painting monumentation. We also know there is something called the tradition of making food in a temple. Not many of us are familiar that the food itself is the deity. The food is not offered to the food. It's the cooked food in the pot is done, rituals to it. The cooked food which is getting offered, before offering it is done, pujas are done to it, then only taken to the god to be offered, which means that is the deity itself. It's the Anna Sharira. There is something called the Anna Sharira of the deity. So to say that icon and dance are directly linked in their product level or the finished product level, for a variation, it is fine. But in the spirit, they have a crossroad only in the idea level. So that's what it is.
I think that's very valid point which you have put forth, and a very scholarly one to understand also the way it is going. I think, did I lose the track now again? Am I audible?
Sagar, I lost you. Sorry, Sagar, I lost you once again.
Okay,
I'm guessing that you're talking, to be very honest. Sorry. I think there is some problem from my end also. I'm not sure though. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for such a scholarly talk, and I think time is very short to even talk to people and explore even a single aspect of life of you all. But we've just had some glimpse of different kinds of works, which I have just tried to give an indexing of what you were trying to do. But a lot of thoughts have been already been published across in print and also in the digital media for people to watch. And I think inspired from this session, if people are going to follow your thoughts and your presentations, I think the dancers will get a lot out of it from the session. So I thank wholeheartedly Professor S. Jayachandran ji for being part of Sankatha. and accepting our invitation, and sharing a lot of knowledge with all of them. It was a wonderful, knowledgeable session with you today. Thank you. Namaste.